Well, Wayne Carey, we are joined by the King today, and he's not 100% fit. He hobbled in on one leg. That's it for footy, is it?
Yeah, no more footy for me. But I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Lasted 25 minutes. But no, all in all, good day. Club made some money. Great win. They're back on the win. Back in the 4.
All right.
So it was all good. The only problem is I can't go for a run now for about a week or two.
And it's not the calf muscle you did the last time?
No, different. The hammy, to be honest, the right hammy was about to go before the calf went. So it was one or the other. It happened to be the left calf.
Well, go on then. What happened? You just did you go in a passage of play, was it, or running through?
Yeah, I just sort of going backwards and then went to go forwards, and it just went pop. So I've done it well. I certainly haven't done it in the half measure. So anyway, like I said, it's I'm no more football.
So what's your body telling you? Lawn bowls maybe, or having a take up fishing?
No. I love going for a run. So run along the beach, run around the Albert Park Lake. That's about it.
In between your physio sessions and putting some ice on it, did you get to see much footy?
Yes.
You probably did lying on the couch.
Saw a bit of footy on the weekend. Some good, some bad. Been a few blowouts over the last couple of weeks, which is, and I know a few people are a little bit concerned about it. Not great as a spectacle.
Yeah. Do you agree with Mick Malthouse that it might be driving fans away if something's not done? I don't quite know what the league.
Oh, look, I think one of the great things about AFL footy over a fair while now has been the fact that the draft and what the draft's been able to do, and that is even the competition up. And I think it's done that. Although this year we've had one of those years this year where we've had some blowouts. You know, we had that round where it was a really close round as well. So, you know, I don't think it's time for concern. I know we've had a few this year, but I don't think there's a trend just yet. I think Port Adelaide will improve. I think the Gold Coast are only going to improve. You know, you've got 2 new sides coming into the competition. You know, Greater Western Sydney are going to cop a couple of floggings next year as well. So, you know, you have to take all of that into account.
But it's not just Gold Coast this year, is it?
No.
Melbourne have been flogged.
Yeah, Melbourne have been
Richmond
flogged. Port, Richmond. Yeah, they have. North Melbourne got flogged by Collingwood. Yeah. Came out the next week and had a good win against the Bulldogs. So, you know, I don't think we should be getting too concerned about it.
I think in the last 3 rounds, 8 games have been decided by 10 goals or more, and 3 of them by 20 goals or more.
10 goals is not a great margin in today's footy.
Fair enough.
It can be, you know. You win a quarter by a couple of goals, and you know that's an 8-goal result. I don't, like I said, I don't see it as a concern. I think sides come back from those sort of deficits. We've seen it time and time again.
I guess the two top teams this weekend played the 2 bottom teams, so it was hardly surprising there was a lopsided result. Interesting. Channel 10 chose to cover the Collingwood-Port game, didn't they, on Saturday night? Which was always going to be a one-sided affair ahead of Essendon and Sydney. Now, I know the scheduling, I think, is done way in advance, but gee, they'd be regretting that now, wouldn't they?
One would think so, although there's a lot of Collingwood supporters out there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that then and the Essendon Sydney game ended up being a great game, so you'd expect, that was obviously a mistake. But I think that you could probably, when they're looking at it, Collingwood being a big draw card, and it's done in advance. That's why that would have happened.
If I'm any guide as a neutral in that game, I watched about 6 minutes of it and just not interested after that. Just too.
I didn't even watch any of it.
Yeah.
I just knew that it would be boring. If you looked at Port Adelaide side run out onto the ground, I didn't know half their team.
Yeah. Interesting. Essendon's situation now is really interesting, isn't it? Given that Adam Goodes missed that shot late in the game, which doesn't effectively mean anything, but it really improves their chances of making the 8. And upon such tiny things, can whole seasons turn, can't they?
Oh, yeah, look, it's huge. Goodes played a great game, probably made 3 or 4 errors that, you know, and you can't look back. I mean, one thing about having a shot for goal after a siren, you know, he missed to the left side of faded left. You're a right footer. If you're going to miss, I reckon you should miss to the right. It's the only
with the natural inclination.
The natural inclination. It faded from right to left. A right footer.
Hooked.
Yeah. And I think, if he had his time again, that's what that's probably where he'd put it.
Did you have many kicks for victory after the siren yourself?
Not after the siren. I've had a few. I've had a few sort of right before, before the siren's gone. But no, I've never had one after.
So did you know at the time that you had to kick that goal for North to win?
Yeah, I think probably the one close. I think we were 6 points down against Hawthorn in that final at Waverley, and yeah, so I had to kick that, and it ended up being a draw.
So you knew that.
Oh well, it's late in the quarter. It's late in the quarter. You have to go back and kick it. Not quite the same though. The siren after the siren kick is psychological. It's a real pressure kick.
Yeah.
Probably glad I never had one.
Now let's look at the Bombers' run home. They've got the Western Bulldogs this week, West Coast in Perth, Port Adelaide, and then a bye in the final round. Freo, who sit a spot below them on the ladder, 2 points, half a game behind. Carlton, North, Collingwood, Bulldogs. You'd think on paper anyway, the Bullies had a easier run home, wouldn't you?
The Bullies?
The Bombers.
The Bombers, yeah. I don't know about that. I think maybe in there you might say, there's one definite, and then the others I wouldn't be. I'd be saying, you'd expect West Coast to beat them there, Port Adelaide, and who's to say that they beat the Bulldogs.
Might be all down to this weekend then.
Yeah. Another big game, and that's what happens around this time when you're fighting for the 8. I mean, every week becomes a mini final.
Do you think that by the way, in round 24 is a beneficial thing for the club or not?
Look, I think it's only beneficial if you've got a few players that need a rest, or a few players coming back from injury to be more full strength.
Yep.
That's the only time it'd be an advantage.
Buddy Franklin cited by the match review panel today, by the way, but Hawthorn play Port next week, so I don't imagine they'll be overly concerned by that.
I actually watched a lot of that game. Didn't see.
No, I didn't either.
Didn't see any incidents, so I can't really comment on that. Buddy was pretty quiet. Had a good last quarter, obviously, to win the game for them. But yeah, you're right. I don't think the Hawks should be too concerned playing Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide, normally, whether they're in form or not, when you play Port, you expect to get a tough game. Right now, you can almost mark it down as a win.
Mark it down. Tell me, I thought Buddy, as a neutral, no, in fact I wasn't neutral because I was a North supporter, but I thought Buddy actually got a raw deal from the umpires, and it's not the first time I've thought that. I don't know, do you think he misses out on frees that some other players get?
Oh yeah, look, I know that they've definitely lightened off on the chopping of the arms and that type of thing. I mean, we saw the overreaction of it. Now I think it's come back again the other way. See a lot more of that going on as the year's gone on. But they probably haven't watched Buddy closely enough to, like, week in, week out, to see whether he's getting a raw deal. I'm sure there's some that they certainly pay them against him.
Maybe
they're very quickly to pay them against him. What you remember, he's a massive guy, 6'6". He's a big boy, so he does tend to get tangled up a little bit, and he does tackle high on occasions.
He does. But I mean, I remember we talked about Barry Hall, the same thing. He only sort of had to go near the ball, and he'd often get penalised.
Yeah. I think they almost blow the whistle before the free kicks there, don't they?
How would Neil Craig be feeling at the moment? He gets booted out the door, or actually fell on his sword 2 weeks ago, and then his Crows go out and win the next 2 games.
Look, the one thing about when that happens, and this is why I don't necessarily agree with it, although there's been some great appointments over the years of coaches that have come in, Paul Roos being probably the great example of that, is players are not under any pressure anymore. They play with the flair and their natural talent, and I think that's what Mark Bickley's seeing the results of that. Normally, if that was Neil Craig coaching and they were down at 3/4 time, I reckon they would have lost that game. The fact that he lets them play. I thought it was a good move, moving John Cock forward. He was getting beaten down back, so he threw him forward. He kicks the winning goal. Probably a ball that should have been spoilt. There were 2 Brisbane players, one in front, one behind. Should have at least got a fist to that ball. So that would be disappointing from Michael Voss's point of view. But on the flip side of that, Adelaide just playing with no pressure at the moment. and hence they will get results like they have been getting the last couple.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your thoughts and for taking the effort to hobble up the stairs today, and we'll let you get back to your physiotherapy.
Thanks, Charlie. Cheers.